Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the story about Naruto. What if Naruto had the cursed seal part 3? Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please do support for more awesome content and also hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends and also support the creator of this fanfic. I have created many playlists, check it out in the channel. So let's start the video. As the feathers fell from the sky, a great number of civilians and inexperienced shinobi fell victim to the white area genjutsu and were asleep. Naruto, unfortunately, wasn't able to learn much from Anko in the genjutsu department and was almost closing his eyes when Shino placed his hands on his shoulders, waking him up instantly. His eyes looked at the arena, only to see many battles occurring at the audience, as well as at the field where Sasuke and Gaara were fighting. He could see that Sasuke and the Proctor Genma were side by side as they were facing an injured Gaara flanked by his siblings and an unknown Jounin from Sunagakure. Naruto was about to go help Sasuke when he saw the other Genins leaving the Genin area towards the audience. "Shino, where are you going?" Naruto stopped Aburam as he was almost out of the blonde Genin's sight. "We are going where our Jounin sensei are now, Naruto. You should too." Shino then left with Naruto quickly in tow. He followed the Genins up to the audience, but stopped once 5 Genins from the sand appeared in front of them. Shino was quick to unleash his bugs, and Shikamaru used his shadow to bind the majority of the enemies. They, Shino, and Shikamaru, managed to bind 4 of the Chunins, but the 5th one managed to escape and charged towards the Genins with speeds that surprised them. He managed to escape from Shino's bugs as well and was about to inflict some serious damage on them with the use of a kunai. The noise of metal meeting metal alerted both Shino and Shikamaru before they saw Naruto parrying his sword with the Genin's kunai. They could see that the sword was glowing with chakra. The two began a match of force before Naruto placed one step backward and released the grip on his sword a bit. As a result, the enemy lost his balance, allowing the blonde to place one step forward and causing a deep slash on the man's stomach. As soon as Naruto heard the sound of metal slicing flesh, a weird feeling punched him right in the gut. Even if he had chosen an art that is knownly deadly, Naruto had yet to kill anyone with his sword. His eyes lost their color for a while as he faced the man whose life he had taken away. For a while, he stood there gathering a great deal of thoughts while Shino and Shikamaru stared at his sword which was now drenched with the man's blood. Shinobis are killing machines, that much was true. But it was completely different between reading that sentence in a book and actually performing the act of killing another human being, even if the man was set on killing his friends. Eventually, he woke up from his wandering and turned to his comrades. Now just wasn't the time to stop and ponder on his actions. "Okay, let's go then," Naruto said to both Shino and Shikamaru, who could only nod after seeing the man bleeding to death on the floor. If Naruto felt that kill, he wasn't showing. With Sasuke was livid with the interruption. He was about to win the battle and fight Naruto next, damn it. He was by Genma's side as they faced the Sun-A Jounin. Gaara had already left the village with his siblings and Genma tried to stop them only for the Suna Jounin named Baki to stop him from doing so. Leaving a Jinchuriki free to roam these lands was dangerous, but he couldn't do anything about it. Genma was sure that others would attend the Jinchuriki in due time. Turning to Sasuke, Genma realized that he would have trouble protecting the Uchiha while facing the Jounin at the same time. "Sasuke, go find your Jounin sensei. I'll cover you." Despite wanting to face a higher level shinobi, Sasuke nodded at the higher ranked officer and left. Baki wasn't interested in the Genin as he managed to stop anyone from following Gaara. Sasuke was running towards the place where his sensei was busy fighting the enemies. He stopped just as 2 sound ninjas landed in front of him, forcing him to draw a kunai in defense. His Sharingan was activated just as one of them charged. Sasuke managed to block the enemy's kunai with his before moving faster than him and stabbing the man in the stomach. His Sharingan caught the other about to move and unleashed a couple of shuriken at his position, surprising the sound Genin. With the 2 on the ground unconscious, Sasuke managed to reach the stands. Looking to his right, he could see Naruto, Shikamaru, and Shino approaching the Jounin's position as well. He could see that Naruto was holding his sword and that an enormous amount of energy was circulating through the sword. He couldn't help but smile at this, though, as he wanted to fight the dobe even more now. The Jounin stopped as Kakashi dealt with the last enemy for the moment before all the Jounin turned to the last Genins. Sakura, Ino, Choji, and Tenten were already there with the Jounins as Kakashi gathered everyone, while the other Jounins dealt with the threat of more enemies. There are 2 areas of essence in protecting, so you must form 2 teams, and one will head to the academy and the other to the hospital. I won't have much time, so please listen. Naruto, Shino, and Ino go grab Neji at the infirmary and head to the academy. Assist the Chunin instructors there. Sasuke, Shikamaru, Sakura, Tenten, and Choji, you will assist the hospital. Many medic nins aren't trained in the field, so they are in more need of assistance. After that, maintain the teams and find a Jounin nearby for further assignments. Now go, we'll provide cover. The Genins nodded and were about to leave when Anko stopped them after decapitating a sound Chunin. Naruto, don't hesitate in killing the enemy. He'll kill you if you do. Sensei, and the student locked eyes for a second. Anko was able to see the troubled look on Naruto's face and she recognized it instantly. Plus the bloodstain on his sword was a dead giveaway. Okay Anko-sensei. The woman smiled at the boy. She frowned for a second before dodging an incoming attack that would pierce her right shoulder before engaging in combat once more. By this time, the Genins had already left towards their respective assignments. Kakashi couldn't help but notice, though, that during the entire debriefing, Naruto was more focused on Anko than him, his official sensei. Another thing that Kakashi realized while blocking 2 kunes with just one was that, while Anko was quick to catch on to the fact that Naruto had his first kill, he wasn't. Kakashi wasn't familiar with the level of bond created throughout this month, but something told him that Anko even indirectly ended up stealing one of his students. Naruto's team. Naruto, Shino, and Ino went quickly towards the infirmary in order to collect their last member. The blonde was having his reservations since it was him who sent the Hyuga there in the first place. The team stopped all of a sudden when a group of Sand Genins appeared in front of the team. The time between their movements granted both Naruto and Shino ample time to launch their attacks. Shino used her bugs, and Naruto unleashed shurikens against the Genins of sand. Ino, like Sakura, was in her civilian clothes and didn't have much on her to be of much assistance. Thus, she had to serve more as a support with her clan techniques. Naruto turned to her. Ino-chan, do you have any weapon with you? The girl blushed in embarrassment but said no. She didn't have time to respond, though, as she saw Naruto throwing her his holster. Pick up my holster then. You'll need it more than I do. Ino nodded before the group moved once more. It didn't take too long before the group arrived at the infirmary before Naruto opened up quickly. Once inside, the 3 were surprised to see not only Neji, but also a man similar in appearance, but much older and wearing a white kimono. From the look of things, the Genins interrupted a very important conversation. The only one who recognized the only adult in the room was Shino, and seeing the lack of words from Naruto and Ino, he took a step forward. Excuse me Hiashi-sama, but we need Neji to accompany us towards the academy in order to protect the students from the invasion. The young Hyuga was completely covered with bandages, but otherwise he didn't appear to be suffering from the attacks. Hyuga Hiashi looked at Aburam Shibi's son Shino for a while before turning to his nephew. Go Neji, we can talk more about it afterward. The elder Hyuga vanished from the room, not even waiting for his nephew's answer. Neji sighed and narrowed his eyes at the Genins. Just seeing Naruto there sent him on edge, but it wasn't time for that right now, as the village was under attack. He left from the bed he was sitting on and approached the Genin's location. He refused to look directly at Naruto, though, much like the blonde expected really. Let's go then. With that, the 4-man team vanished towards the academy with Naruto up front and Neji last because of the Byakugan. As the blonde charged towards the rooftops, he saw a purple barrier being lifted to his right and frowned since the Hokage was in that direction. Whatever it was, though, he was certain that the old man would deal with it quickly. He was the Hokage after all, and thus the strongest shinobi in the village. He needed to focus on his current assignment now, instead of worrying over a man who survived 2 great shinobi wars and had more than 50 years of experience. Sasuke's team. Sasuke, Shikamaru, Sakura, Tenten, and Choji left the arena towards the village hospital. They could see a great number of fights on top of buildings and on the village streets, but they couldn't stop their path, otherwise the hospital would be unguarded. Sakura, Tenten, and Choji were in their civilian clothes, but Tenten was the only one that had weapons hidden below her Chinese-style dressing. She supplied Sakura and Choji with weaponry. A group of sound Chunin appeared in front of him, but Sasuke's Sharingan already informed him, even before their actual appearance. Hence why by the time they landed in front of the genins, he was already going through hand seals. Kaiten Housenkan no Jutsu, Fire Release, Mythical Phoenix Flower Technique. The fireballs reached their destination and supplied the Chunins with third-degree burns. Without even stopping, the group of genins charged once more towards the hospital. Sasuke was at the front, as per Shikamaru's instruction, seeing as his Sharingan would tell them if the path was clear or not. When the Uchiha stopped and told everyone to stop, it didn't take long for two elder Konoha genins to fly past them and crash inside a sushi restaurant to their left. Luckily to the younger genins, the older ones recovered quickly and attacked the enemies once more. It took them 10 minutes to reach the hospital. Once there, Shikamaru quickly devised a defensive perimeter so as to protect the front entrance and the other ones from the right side of the building. Their timing couldn't be more perfect, as 1 minute later, two Chunins from sand appeared in front of them, wanting to kill the wounded. Shikamaru sighed and turned to Sakura. "Sakura, someone needs to check inside to see if the hospital was evacuated. Our station here will have to remain until the hospital is empty." The girl nodded and entered the hospital followed by Chaoji. He had the strength to carry some of the wounded if need be. Tenten and Sasuke took one step forward and Shikamaru remained behind to use his shadow as support. After Chaoji entered the hospital, the remaining genins stood by at the front while Sasuke and Tenten looked at the enemies while guarded in case of their movement. Their plan was simple, yet many things could go wrong. The plan was to keep them occupied and eventually take them near Shikamaru when he could extend his shadow and capture them. Of course, that would only happen if the enemy wasn't aware of Shikamaru's ability with shadows. If they for instance managed to pass through Sasuke and Tenten, then the Nara heir would be the only one standing between the enemy and the hospital entrance. Sasuke and Tenten looked at one another briefly, both understanding that they couldn't make mistakes. Immediately throwing a great number of shuriken, Tenten and Sasuke charged against a Sand Chunin. The Sand Chunin evaded the projectiles easily enough and charged, as well with speeds that far outmatched the Konoha genins. Even with the Sharingan, Sasuke was having trouble blocking their thrusts and Tenten was defending herself with a long wooden staff. The enemies were easily superior in strength and the genins knew it. Sasuke heard the noise of a kick hitting Tenten's face and snarled as he saw her flying towards Shikamaru's position. He could see that she had spilled a few drops of blood and imagined the strength behind the kick. He couldn't allow them to march towards the hospital. Seeing as Tenten's enemy was behind him and that his enemy was about to hit with a kunai, Sasuke immediately evaded them, using a shunshin. With this, they couldn't dodge in time and one plunged the kunai at the other's chest, wounding him badly. Sasuke appeared by Tenten's side while Shikamaru used the distraction and managed to grab the enemy's shadow. "Sasuke, do it now. I don't believe I can hold them for long." Shikamaru's scream awakened the Uchiha as he realized that he was taking too long in checking if Tenten was hurt. He looked up to see the enemies trapped by the shadow and nodded before going through a sequence of hand seals. Kaiten Gakakyu no Jutsu, Fire Release, Great Fireball Technique. The gigantic meteor engulfed the two Chunin and neither of them had the time to scream in agony. Instantly, the same pain engulfed Sasuke as he took a couple of seconds to realize that he just made his first kill. For longer than the Uchiha could remember, there was only one man he swore to kill one day, and that was elder brother. As the fire created by an Uchiha consumed the bodies of his enemies, Sasuke couldn't help but freeze right there as he pondered on what his only goal in life really represented. Sasuke was not ignorant to the fact that these two may not be his only victims throughout the invasion and quite certainly won't be throughout his ninja career. His ambition to avenge his family wasn't in a way diminished, but what changed was the prospect of killing his older brother. He always talked about doing this, but he never thought about how he would do it. Shikamaru stood by his side as he could watch the same perplexed expression on Sasuke's face compared to Naruto's not even 15 minutes ago. His father always told him that when the time came and he had to kill someone for the first time, it would certainly be the worst day of Shikamaru's life. In this case, the amount of his IQ represented very little in his ability to grasp what both Sasuke and Naruto were going through right now. Even if they were participating in a tournament to decide if they have the skills necessary to become Chunins, he was sure that none of the rookies had ever killed anyone before, at least not until now. He figured that if both Sasuke and Naruto managed to understand what it means to kill someone in order to protect others, then they could be considered Chunin material shinobi. Tenten's noise of pain had woken Shikamaru before he went to check on the wounded genin. "Are you alright, Tenten?" Shikamaru's question woke Sasuke as well, since he was joined by the girl's other side. The weapons specialist nodded before massaging her jaw a little bit. That kick almost knocked her out. Sasuke and Shikamaru helped her get up just as Choji and Sakura left the hospital. Choji was using his partial expansion jutsu and carrying a civilian couple in each of his arms, while Sakura was carrying a baby girl. The group was once again joined just as an explosion happened a few meters away from their position. Luckily, it was just a misfired jutsu, meaning that there weren't more enemies to deal with. "Sakura, is the hospital empty?" Shikamaru asked, earning a nod from the kunoichi. "Yes, we searched through every corridor and room, only to find this couple and their baby. The rest were already taken to the shelters, so we must head there immediately." "Let's go then, there is one not far from here," Sasuke said as the group left the hospital location towards one of the shelters. Afterward, as Kakashi instructed, they would need to find the nearest jounin in order to see how they could be of further assistance to the purpose of casting the enemies out. It didn't take long for them to reach the shelter before the group was on the move again. Sasuke was the one who looked up to see the man from the first phase of the Chunin exams barking orders at some Chunins. He urged his team to follow them just as the Chunins received their orders and left the rooftop. As soon as they landed, though, both Ibiki and the Genins were surprised at the noise coming from the walls. Much to their shock, a three-headed gigantic snake made a giant hole on the village's wall, threatening to destroy the entire village just by passing by. Ibiki was considering his options when he saw a big shadow on the ground. The snake could only see stars when a 50-feet battle toad fell from the sky and right on top of the reptile. With Naruto's team. Immediately upon leaving the stadium, the group was assaulted by a group of 9 sound Genins and Chunins. However, a couple of Konoha Chunin appeared and managed to hold their own, allowing Naruto's team to continue their trip towards the academy. The entire town was deserted with fights occurring in specific points of the village. Naruto felt like joining a couple of them before remembering that he was given a mission to protect the academy. On the way, he figured that Iruka-sensei would be there as well to protect the students. Even if the situation didn't call for it, a part of him was feeling excited upon being able to show Iruka-sensei how much he'd improved since graduation. "We must hurry, because the academy is being attacked by no more than 15 shinobi. There are only 3 Chunins there right now, and they're struggling to keep the enemies from attacking the children." Everyone heard Niji's report and nodded before focusing chakra to their legs for the extra propulsion. Naruto was the fastest of the group, so he went on ahead of everyone. 5 minutes later, they could see the academy and the enemies attacking. One of the Chunins was on the floor and filled with lots of kunai stuck in his stomach. Naruto saw Iruka holding his own, but barely. Turning to Ino and the others with projectiles, they all nodded at his intention before throwing shurikens at the enemies. The sound ninjas sensed a weapon's approach and backed off their assault before the Genins appeared in front of the Chunins. Iruka managed to relax a bit upon seeing the backup. "It's good that you appeared. They all came out of nowhere." Iruka smiled upon seeing his ex-students. He could see Naruto among the group and couldn't help but see how focused he was on the enemy. "No sweat, Iruka-sensei, we were sent here by Kakashi-sensei." Iruka nodded before kneeling to check on the other Chunin instructor, an overweight Chunin by the name of Dakoku. The rest of the Chunins were already able to extract the children from the academy, so their mission was now reduced to salvaging the building. The sound enemies sneered at what the man referred to as backup, since they appeared to be fresh out of the academy Genins with no appearing threat whatsoever. One of them even tried to attack Naruto only for the blonde to dodge and thrust his sword through the man's stomach, surprising the hell out of the guy. The others were surprised as well upon witnessing the brat's speed. Shino took the opportunity and performed some hand seals. Mushi Dama no Jutsu, insect sphere technique. The amount of bugs that left from inside his sleeves formed a swirling sphere as it charged towards the enemy. Upon impact, the insect started sucking the enemy's chakra. The attack didn't do much against all of the enemies, but at least they sucked quite a lot of their chakra before going back to Shino. Ino remained on the back, seeing as she always was a support-type kunoichi. She and Shino remained in the back, while Naruto and Niji stood on the front lines. Both looked at each other, and Naruto could swear that Neji wasn't looking forward to working together with him. "Well, tough luck Neji, we are now together in this," Naruto thought as he threw the sword up a bit to do a very familiar hand seal. Taijuu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, multi-shadow clone technique. Instead of bunching clones though, Naruto opted to summon a team of 3 before joining the clones in a single charge against the enemies. Despite not enjoying Naruto's presence right now, Neji couldn't help but look at the 4 Naruto's coordination and acknowledge their skills. After all, he was also victimized by said coordinated attack. At first it looked like they would charge the enemies head-on, which was an amateur move at best. However, when the clones and the real Naruto reached half distance, the 4 Narutos started changing their positions in random movements, thus confusing the enemy. When the Narutos got closer to the enemy, the Sound Genins used their rather quick places to get rid of these clones, as well as the real one, as quickly as possible. In the last minute, though, only 2 remained forward as they managed to block a few of the attacks, thus allowing the other clone and the real Naruto to move quickly and kill them a good 3 enemies from behind. The rest of the platoon looked surprised at the Genin, but one of them managed to slice one of Naruto's left with a kunai. The real one sensed his cue to leave just as Neji approached, using Naruto's created distraction. Hakiraku Juai Onshu, 8 divination sign 6-4 palms of the hand. The field of Neji's technique engulfed the rest of the enemies that survived both Naruto and Shino's attack before Neji moved quickly and sealed their tenketsus, rendering the rest of the enemies unconscious. Iruka looked with a surprised smile as he saw how much his genitals had grown since their graduation. With the academy cleared, the group of Genins approached the rest of the Chunins that stood protecting the academy. After clearing out with Iruka, they quickly left in union, searching for the next Jounin, as Kakashi instructed them to. As soon as they left the academy, Naruto's team wasn't able to walk further as a good amount of kunai came straight at them from the right. Neji and Shino used their respective bloodlines to spot the attack, but Naruto had only his blunt instinct honed by the amount of times Anko had sneaked up on him from behind with kunai. Ino was the only one who didn't spot the attack, but she was out of harm's way, behind Shino. 2 seconds later, right in front of them, appeared a lone man with the sound insignia on his forehead. Looking at him for a while, everyone could see that he was stronger than the ones the Genins had faced so far. He was easily Kakashi's height and doubled his muscles build up with a great number of scars located on both arms. His outfit was similar to the other Sound Shinobis, but he wasn't wearing a mask to cover his face. The man had gray long hair and showed a look of complete boredom upon looking at his next competition. So the rumor was true, and Konoha had lowered its standards because of these times of peace. So far, his only opposition was of weak Chunins at the most. Now, he was facing Genins. Both Naruto and Neji stood at the ready while observing the man. In retrospect, the Sound Shinobi at least took into consideration that none of the Genin believed it would be wise to start the fight. He took a while to study the first 2 and observed the one from the right more than the one from the left. The Byakugan was rather famous enough that even someone young in the ninja world could recognize it. That made him a little bit alert, as no Hyuga could be underestimated, even if it was a Genin. Turning slightly, he focused on the brat with blonde hair and saw that he was holding a Kadashi, it seemed in a reverse grip, a style that wasn't very popular amongst sword fighters. Smiling, the man did a couple of hand seals before vanishing from Naruto's sight. The Genin was surprised at it, but kept his calm. He didn't know what was going on, but Anko had punched him a great number of occasions without him even noticing she was there. That being said, he was used to trusting his instincts. He stood there and focused, not even aware of the fact that the enemy had just casted a false surroundings genjutsu on him. He suddenly heard a shift of air through his right and turned to land the strike from his sword. The sudden noise of a kunai parrying sword disrupted the illusion as Naruto now stood face to face with the surprised enemy. The man knew that Naruto was caught in his illusion and the Hyuga didn't activate his eyes fast enough. His experience suddenly told the man to stop the game of strength and back off from the blonde. He narrowed his eyes when Naruto's sword began to glow with chakra. Because of that, he figured that underestimating the blonde wouldn't be his best course of action. He saw the Hyuga coming from his right and looked at the boy's hand trying to land one hit at him. He knew what would happen if he did and thus dodged every time. As soon as he saw an opening, he took it and threw Neji off balance with his leg before flipping in mid-air to land a powerful kick at the Hyuga. His eyes registered the blonde's approach from his blind side, and he realized that he couldn't dodge in mid-air. As soon as the sword penetrated his stomach, he replaced himself with a log a few meters away and began a series of hand seals. Doten Jishin no Jutsu, Earth Release, Earthquake Technique. As soon as he smashed both hands on the ground, it started shaking fiercely, forcing the genins to lose their balance, allowing the sound shinobi to charge at the blonde first with a kunai. Naruto saw the man's approach and tried balancing himself despite the earthquake. He managed to parry the kunai with his sword, but his footing wasn't right, and he figured that he couldn't keep up with the man's speed. He suddenly saw the man's arm turning into a rock and realized that he needed to escape from his position, and fast. He had only enough time to summon a cage bunshin and replace himself with the real one, surprising the enemy. Niji took the time and charged once more with the Gyuiken, hoping to strike the man, but to no avail. The enemy was beginning to grow tired of these two and stepped up his game, aiming a strong kick at Niji's face before finishing a sequence of hand seals. Doten Doryuiden no Jutsu, Earth Release, Mud Dragon Projectile Technique. Niji could see the attack coming because of the Byakugan and used the main house technique Kaiten. He focused chakra throughout all of his tenketsus and released it at the same time while spinning his body, thus forming a protective chakra dome around him. The enemy cursed once more, taking away his attention from both genins and focusing only on the Hyuga. A mistake he sadly wouldn't be able to regret, as he flinched all of a sudden. As he turned his head to look at his back, he saw the blonde genin's Kadashi enter his back and almost come out of his chest. Naruto used the distraction supplied by Niji and threw his sword at the man before performing hand seals for the Repushu technique. With it, his sword was propelled with superior speed and penetrated the man's back with such brutality that it almost pierced through. The other three genins looked at it with mixed expressions. Shino lifted his eyebrow upon witnessing the impact, and Ino let out a frightened scream at the sudden brutality. Niji, though, looked at it for a while before focusing on the blonde with a focused expression on his face. Even with the amount of pride he had, Niji was beginning to realize that perhaps Naruto wasn't going 100% against him at the Chunin exams if he could deal this kind of damage. The blonde in question said nothing as he approached the downed enemy and removed his bleeding sword before placing it back inside the scabbard. He didn't look conflicted after killing 5 enemies now, and in Ino's mind, it seemed almost surreal. Back at the academy, Naruto appeared unable to hurt even a fly, but the way in which he handled the enemies was just so unlike him that it kind of scared her. Looking at the genins still with his focused expression, Naruto ushered everyone to move, and quite surprisingly, no one turned and questioned him for being the leader of the group. Leading the way towards the gates that arose to their left, Naruto's group was suddenly surrounded by 3 sand and sound chunins. Naruto had no doubt in his mind as he went through quick hand seals before gathering as much air as he could inside his lungs. Fuiten Datapa no Jutsu, Wind Release, Great Breakthrough Technique. The huge gust of wind came out stronger than the one used at Niji, and the genins had to shield their faces because of the fierce wind. The enemies struggled to remain in their positions by sticking to the ground by using chakra. Eventually, the enemies caved and were sent flying with the exception of a couple that actually knew of the technique beforehand. They were sand chunins. As soon as Naruto finished the technique, he needed to recover his breath, leaving him open for a load of shurikens to charge at him, threatening to pierce his body. Shino was the one that moved faster by summoning his bugs and having them swirl around Naruto, forming a dome of sorts. Still coughing, he turned to Shino in appreciation. Grabbing his sword once more and focusing more wind chakra through it, he waited for the bug wall to cease for him to continue with the attack. When the wall ceased, though, he saw something weird happening with the chunins. They were frozen in place, and a black hand appeared to be crawling up their bodies until it stopped on their necks. The frightened looks on their faces only took seconds before the genins winced at the sound of necks being broken. When they turned to the left, a man appeared looking like an older version of Shikamaru, showing a considerable scar on his face. The man was wearing a jounin vest and some old coat on top of it. Troublesome it appears that we arrived on time. The genins were surprised at that, since they only saw him there. Suddenly, though, Anbus showed up, and even the fathers of Chaoji, and Ino, Chaoza, and Inoichi. The genins looked around because of Shikaku's words and spotted a couple of Anubis, as well as 2 jounins that appeared to be older versions of Choji and Ino, even if it was a man. Ino met her father and embraced him for a while, probably seeing safety in the man's embrace. Naruto, Neji, and Shino met with Shikaku and one of the Anubis, a woman by the looks of it, because of the Anbu's long blue hair. The cat, disguised as Anbu, noticed a few spots on Naruto's hand that were covered with blood, and from the look on his face, she knew it wasn't his blood nor from any of the genins. None of them appeared injured, and only the Hyuga had a drop of blood dripping from his mouth. "Shikaku-san, we should get going. The plan is still in effect," the female Anbu said. Shikaku's father appeared to be the one in charge from what Naruto could gather. The one in question nodded and turned to the team of genin. "You guys should come in with us and protect any civilian we encounter. Leave the fighting to us, understand?" The genins nodded before everyone vanished in order to start searching for enemies to deal with. Far from the village, hidden within the heavy foliage that surrounded the village, Kankuro and Tamari were busy guarding their brother as he couldn't help but shake in rage. To their knowledge, no one was ever able to land a hit on him like the Uchiha did, and now they weren't sure what would happen. If their brother lost control to the beast, then they couldn't do anything but flee from fear of being killed by the beast residing inside their little brother. Gaara's blood had already turned into sand as he emitted an angry scream, filled with malice, making both his brothers shake in the process. It was too late now to stop the transformation, as Gaara was now transformed into a mini Shukaku. Both of them began to flee when they saw a man with long white hair appear from behind them. None of them knew who he was, though. The man in question looked at the transformed Jinchuriki and narrowed his eyes before hiding his right hand from view. His 5 fingers had blue kanji written. The man suddenly vanished and appeared right in front of the Jinchuriki before slamming the Gaju Fuin 5-element seal on Gaara's stomach, stopping the beast from taking over the Jinchuriki. Letting out a breath of relief upon arriving on time, he saw that the Jinchuriki fell limp on the ground and moved to grab him. He could feel chakra being molded behind him, but didn't think much of it and grabbed Gaara just as a powerful gust of wind struck him from behind. Waiting a minute to see if she was able to kill the man, she saw 5 trees sliced on the ground, but no sign of either the stranger or her brother Gaara anywhere. "Oh, a wind user, and one quite strong for your age." Jiraiya had a smirk on his face, as if the situation. Tamari could only see fire as the man managed to capture her brother. "I won't let you capture my brother, give him back to me now." The Sannin only smirked at such anger. "Whoever said that you wouldn't be captured, as well?" The girl looked at him for a while before her eyes widened at a new presence from behind. She couldn't do much as Jiraiya gave her a chop on the neck that rendered her unconscious. The puppet user suffered the same fate, but he was too shocked to see how easily this man dealt with Gaara and Tamari to show much resistance. No sooner, a team of trenchcoat-dressed Anbu Black Ops dropped and took the captive away. Jiraiya then wondered how the fight between his sensei and his teammate was. He reluctantly agreed to watch out for the Jinchuriki while Sarutobi-sensei dealt with Orochimaru. It was understandable that sensei would take responsibility and deal with Orochimaru, but Jiraiya wished that he was there to assist. Hoping that he wasn't too late, he vanished towards the location of the fight. Battle of the Cages. The battle between Orochimaru and Sarutobi Hiruzen started out with each one testing the other, so to speak. To the Anbu spectators, it could be considered a show of undisputed talent displayed by their Hokage, as the man managed to mingle both fire and earth techniques like no one ever could. However, for each technique Hiruzen used, Orochimaru always seemed to be prepared for it and managed to evade. The Hokage, though, wasn't fazed by his student's skill to dodge his techniques. On the contrary, it was at least expected from a man who was considered an S-ranked shinobi and one of the Sannin. The fight soon had increased in skill as both moved up to high-level techniques. The fight was equally matched until Orochimaru decided to play dirty, even dirtier than the shinobi's normal modus operandi. Seeing as he couldn't beat the old man using his own set of skills, Orochimaru resorted to an S-ranked genjutsu that consisted of summoning the dead by using one of his pawns as sacrifices. Sarutobi Hiruzen was a fearsome opponent, but with his old age, he couldn't go up against his student and the 2 first Senju Hokages, both of them being his sensei, when he was a genin. The old man needed help, and he got it by summoning Enma, the Monkey King. With its help, Sarutobi managed to turn the odds in his favor by beating the crap out of both Hashirama and Tobirama, the first and second Hokage respectively. However, with each deadly move, Sarutobi Hiruzen found out that the only way for him to deal with the Senju brothers was to take care of the one who summoned him. Unfortunately, though, he would have to go through his two senses, and that was almost, if not completely, impossible to even consider. With his options being limited, the old man sighed in dismay, as his mind could only think of one choice. A great sense of dread overcame him, though, at the thought of using the same technique that the Yondaime had used in order to deal with the almighty Kyuubi no Yoko a long time ago. His dread wasn't meritless, as he knew the consequence of using said technique. As the war progressed throughout the village, Sarutobi knew within his heart that Konoha's shinobi had already turned the odds and had followed his plan to their utmost ability. His only fear right now was not living to see the village's glory upon surviving yet another war, even if technically it was an invasion. The old monkey king Enma, transformed into Sarutobi's metal staff, had fought many years along Hiruzen and thus knew the old man's thoughts. "You're not thinking of doing what I think you're going to do, are you, Sarutobi?" A tired smile was evident on Hiruzen's face, as his partner knew him so well. "The reason this village has withstood so many battles, my dear friend, was not because of a single man, but everyone. The only way I could beat Orochimaru is by using the Shiki Fuijin." Hiruzen could hear a snarl coming from his staff, but his partner knew, as much as he did, that this was the only way. Enma snarled in anger for the only reason of venting out his frustrations of not being able to do anything to stop his partner from sacrificing himself in order to stop this threat. Throughout the village's history, no Kage managed to live long enough to step down from his position and nominate a successor. The only one to do that was the Sandaime, but because of the Kyuubi, his successor ended up sacrificing himself, thus repeating the curse of the Hokage's position. With Jiraiya, it didn't take long for the Sannin to reach the place of the battle, as he observed a team of Anbu Black Ops just stationed there just behind what appeared to be a barrier made of purple-like energy. Almost on the verge of asking why they were just standing there, Jiraiya had refrained from doing so, as these guys wore those masks for no other reason than their commitment to the village's welfare, as well as the Hokage's. Jiraiya knew that, if there was any opening, these guys would exploit it. He could see how the battlefield was changed, and even the two new members of the battle. His old sensei was strong, and Orochimaru knew he couldn't beat the old man alone. But now it fell to him to do something about this. He had enough experience under his belt to know that the barrier in front of him was a Kekai Ninjutsu, barrier ninjutsu, technique. And like every barrier, if he could match the amount of chakra used to create the technique, he could disrupt it quite easily through the use of Fuinjutsu. A smirk suddenly appeared as he considered one of the last projects he created alongside his old student, the Yondaime Hokage. He could see the four pillars of the technique were actually Orochimaru's goons maintaining it. He knew that the amount of chakra and the chakra control necessary to maintain the barrier would eventually tire them, but he knew that Orochimaru knew this as well. The snake must have calculated the time he had to deal with the old man. However, Jiraiya knew his old teammate wasn't counting on his presence there, as he was quite crafty in the world of seals. With one finger glowing, Jiraiya quickly devised the design of his own seal, drawing identical kanjis in a lozenge shape. The Sound Four, the ones responsible for the barrier, looked at Jiraiya with curious expressions. They couldn't do anything to stop him, as one single movement would disrupt the barrier. As soon as Jiraiya had written the last kanji near the Anbus's side, he asked them to approach so that he could give his orders to them. This move had to be precise in order to work. "Okay guys, as skilled as I expect you to be, you'll help me in disrupting the barrier." The look of shock was evident even with the masks, but Jiraiya ignored it in favor of explaining. "This kanji right here was drawn on the four sides of this rooftop. At my command, each one of you will perform a sequence of hand seals, and it must be performed at the same time. I'll be the main one, as I need to control the technique. You guys will just supply the chakra needed to break this." Jiraiya explained to them their hand seal sequence before the Anbus got into position at the designated spots. The three Anbus started their hand seals before they slammed both hands on the seal drawn by Jiraiya as they molded the necessary amount of chakra. Instantly, a white light appeared on the first man and traveled towards the second Anbu. Said light remained there, and a second light moved from the second to the third and rested there as well. Another soon appeared from the third and rested on Jiraiya's position while he was busy making a long, intricate sequence of hand seals. After molding the necessary chakra, he placed his hands on his seal, thus creating the fourth light that left him and rested on the first Anbu member. Fuinjutsu Kekai Chacha no Jutsu, Sealing Arts. Barrier Disruption Technique. The lozenge was thus formed and started glowing before all four lights rose at the sky, engulfing the purple barrier. For a while, both Fuinjutsu techniques stood there battling for power, but the Sound 4 weren't as chakra resourceful as a Sannin and 3 Anbu Black Ops. Added to the fact that they'd been maintaining the barrier for a longer period of time, the battle didn't take long, and the purple barrier was lifted, surprising the ones in it. Hiruzen had already summoned 3 cage buncheons to aid him in sealing everyone with the Shiki Fuijin when he saw the barrier being lifted. Orochimaru cursed Jiraiya like he never had before just as the Anbu Black Ops rushed inside to save their Hokage. Jiraiya appeared inside as well, looking rather smug as he saw the furious look displayed by Orochimaru. The Snake Sannin, for his part, snarled since the odds turned once more and there was nothing standing between the entire force of the Konoha Anbu and him. The Senju brothers were by now dissolving, all because of Orochimaru's short supply of chakra to maintain them alive for long. He had to flee. The Sound 4 all used smoke bombs before gathering their leader and making a break for it. The Anbus were about to give chase, but they were mostly concerned with their Hokage's well-being. The man looked at his student and smiled before closing his eyes in pure exhaustion. A good sleep would do him wonders, as he was now relieved that Konoha won another round and he was still alive to see it through. Throughout the village, sand ninjas, at least the alive ones, decided to flee as Konoha managed to turn the odds against them. Sound ninjas, though, weren't so lucky as the majority were decimated. Only a select few managed to escape. Konoha had lived through dark times once more, all thanks to its shinobi and the will of fire. Barely 2 days had passed since the invasion suffered by Konohagakure at the hands of Atagakure and Sunagakure. Although the giant walls of the hidden villages in the leaves were victorious in the end, it didn't mean that the people were celebrating, far from it, actually. A lot of people perished because of one man's ambition from both sides of the war. There was a solemn feeling for those who lost their loved ones and also for those who had to take lives, even if they were the enemy. Konohagakure was in lockdown until further notice, as everyone needed time to think about what happened, grieve, and then move forward. The Sandaime Hokage was clearly the one who suffered the most amongst both the civilian and the ninja population. His legend was forged through bloodshed for more than 50 years of battle. No doubt he was getting too goddamn old for this shit. The man lost count on how many battles he'd participated in. He also lost count on how many comrades, family, friends, and acquaintances he had to bury. The majority being blamed on the shinobi's countless battles. The man was currently inside a hospital room as he pondered on what happened 2 days ago. As the Hokage, he couldn't just relax and recover in the hospital, but he couldn't leave his room either. That being said, he ordered a temporary office to be set inside his hospital room. The man was almost entirely covered by bandages as he focused on the damage reports. He read the meticulously elaborated report at least 3 times before sighing in dismay. Even if Konohagakure's side suffered the least, there were still casualties. Lives lost in the line of duty, protecting their village, further fueling the flame that drove this village to greatness day by day. Sarutobi Hiruzen, despite all the hardships in his life, all the comrades he had lost in his life, couldn't help but shed a lone tear for those who sacrificed their lives for the good of the village. It was for men like these that he could find the strength to rule this village despite his old age. He knew he needed a replacement now more than ever, and this would be one of his tasks until he was out of the hospital. There was no pain that dug further than the realization that he just wasn't in his prime anymore. He needed to think of suitable replacements, and now it was the time. His mind immediately went to an elite jounin and prized student of the deceased Yondaime Hokage. Haddock Kakashi was the living embodiment of everything this village needed for the position of Godaime Hokage. Admittedly, Sarutobi wished the man was at least 5 years older in terms of experience, but the Second Shinobi Great War gave him all the experience he needed. Every leader had one vital goal in life, besides leading his people to the best of his knowledge: train a suitable successor. Orochimaru was the third, even if he decided against it in the end. Sarutobi had no doubt in his mind that had the Yondaime not sacrificed himself to get rid of the Kyuubi, he would be grooming Kakashi for the position right now. The son of the legendary White Fang had everything. A reputation bearing on S ranked according to the bingo book, the vitality of youth, skills that far exceeded a normal jounin's imagination, and of course the implanted Sharingan on his right socket that gave him the reputation of Sharingan no Kakashi. Sarutobi of course had 2 other names to consider. Aside from Orochimaru, both Jiraiya and Tsunade had both the political and shinobi reputations to rule this village. However, like Orochimaru, both Jiraiya and Tsunade had flaws that Kakashi didn't share. All four of them suffered, goddamn if Sarutobi didn't recognize it. Orochimaru had lost his parents when he was young and suffered a great deal of trauma because of it. He became delusional and became a criminal of the worst kind. Jiraiya's pain was the loss of his favorite student and son figure Namikaze Minato. Sarutobi knew the man never got over the loss of the Yondaime. He even suspected that the reason his student didn't take on young Naruto was because the boy reminded him too much of whom he lost. The Hokage couldn't afford to let weakness cloud his judgment. Plus, Jiraiya was so far engrossed in his spy network that it would be a loss to Konoha if he was trapped behind a desk. Tsunade was actually the only one of the Sannin nowadays that was Hokage material. However, the loss of her soon-to-be husband and brother had ruined her life badly. Compared to the Sannin, Kakashi had lost a lot as well, beginning with his father committing suicide after a failed S-rank mission. To this day, Sarutobi mourned Haddock Tsukumo's decision to commit suicide. The man would certainly be an even greater legend than he was at the time of his prime. Tsukumo was a man that always preferred the battlefield rather than being stuck behind a desk. He was considered by the Sandaime a long time ago for the position of Hokage together with Orochimaru and Minato. Tsukumo refused though, saying that he belonged on the battlefield. Haddock Kakashi was merely an academy student when his father perished. The last descendant of the Haddock clan took his father's suicide and improved in his career. The boy was an Anbu captain when he was the same age as the Genins nowadays. His second greatest pain was also his prized strength, the acquisition of his Sharingan. There was no doubt in his mind that Kakashi was the future Goddamn Hokage. Sarutobi knew the time to step down was upon him. Actually, said time happened almost 13 years ago, but he had to regain his throne once more. Sarutobi loved the village too much to simply step down and retire. He figured that Kakashi-kun could use some help in political affairs. Like Kakashi's promotion from elite jounin to Hokage, Sarutobi needed to address the necessity of replacing the Chunin he had lost because of the invasion. No doubt, the answer to his problem was to focus on the Chunin exams as well as the reports given by the Anbu of the Chunin applicants' field test. In this field, a proud smile could be seen from the old warrior's face as he considered the new generation of shinobi and their accomplishments thus far. He knew down to a certainty the crops of Chunin applicants were all impressive shinobi and would only grow in the future. The invasion ended up ruining their chances of the Genins showing their skills, but Sarutobi knew their worth. The reports of their abilities in the invasion showed him that. Two names immediately popped into his mind, and one of them was his grandson Uzumaki Naruto. His heart was filled with pride at the blonde's displayed ability, and he knew he did the right thing placing Anko as his tutor for the month. Naruto's untapped potential wouldn't be as thoroughly achieved with a jounin that focused on theoretical work alone. Now, Sarutobi imagined great things for the boy. Another name was the last descendant of the Uchiha clan, Sasuke Uchiha. Everyone had a lot of opinions concerning his mental stability after what his older brother did a long time ago. With that said, people often wondered that given the situation, Sasuke would prefer stepping on others in order to grow in strength. The reports he received, however, told him another story, a cooperative Sasuke leading a team of Genin throughout a tough situation and beating enemies that were Chunin level. Sarutobi knew the boy already had the skills to become a Chunin. His dedication to become stronger, even if it was based on revenge alone, not only gave him mastery of fire manipulation, but also excellence in both Taijutsu and Genjutsu. Added that with the Sharingan and the Cursed Seal, Sasuke was already a foe to be feared in the field. Both Naruto and Sasuke displayed enough skills and will surely receive the promotion. Another two names were considered for the promotion, although for their work in the field. Nara Shikamaru and Aburam Shino were competent shinobi and learned a great load of techniques from their respective Nara and Aburam clan. Shikamaru had a high IQ, thus had the ability of a strategist like his father. Shino was there as well, inheriting Shibi's calculative nature even in dire stress. Sarutobi at first considered appointing Hyuga Neji for the promotion, but then thought one more time. The young Hyuga, like Sasuke, had the skill to become Chunin. However, the boy's state of mind just wasn't where Sarutobi wanted in a Chunin. He received information from Hiashi stating that he explained the real story to Neji and that he was showing signs of change. Perhaps, in the next Chunin exams, Niji could prove himself worthy of the promotion, but not this time. The rest of the rookies also showed promise, and Hiruzen was sure that in the next exams, the majority of them will get the promotion. Sarutobi also needed to consider what to do with the children of the deceased Yondaime Kazekage. Sunagakure was being manipulated by Orochimaru, so it was decided that Konoha wouldn't retaliate against them. The Suna Council had already agreed to any form of compensation for the damages, so Sarutobi considered ordering a team tomorrow to take the 3 Subaku children towards Sunagakure. Jiraiya had already fixed Gaara's seal, thus not allowing the boy to harm anyone. It was strange to hear the young Gaara thanking his student for fixing the seal. He learned, though, that because of the poorly casted seal, Gaara couldn't sleep for fear of letting the beast loose. The boy slept for 2 days straight. Scratching the Chunin replacements off his agenda, it was now time to fix some infrastructural flaws in the village, starting with the place he was right now. Usually, there were no complaints with the hospital system, at least not a specific amount, that would concern a leader. However, the place wasn't managed properly. Lots of funds would go to waste, and the doctor's practices just weren't keeping up with the new diseases out there. Hiruzen needed someone who could run the place, as it should, someone with great medicinal knowledge. In this regard, he needed little time to ponder on a name. Tsunade was the right person for the job, and she could even use this facility as a medic nin academy like she always wanted in the past. The only part he was dreading was how he would go about convincing her to come back to the hidden village in the leaves. Perhaps he could talk about this with Jiraiya tomorrow. He would know how to convince his teammate to return. Also, he needed to make some changes with the patrol missions. This invasion has proven that the enemy could very well sneak in the forest that surrounded the village and attack without anyone noticing. This item, however, needed to be attended to tomorrow, as his mind was already tired of reading the reports and considering the promotions. The room was dark with only the moon outside granting some light. Sarutobi Hiruzen appreciated the dark, though. It was comfortable for him. Too much light isn't necessarily a good thing. In the ninja world, a ninja must find the balance between darkness and light. Sarutobi one time learned that from his sensei Senju Tabarama. He closed his eyes with a smile on his face as he appreciated the short times in which he could afford some rest. Now that he was set on giving the crown to Kakashi, Sarutobi couldn't help but wonder about the more relaxing days he will most certainly have. The next day. Once fully rested and not as bruised as before, the Sandaime Hokage decided to return to his office as he had a lot of announcements for today. These last 3 days were a blessing to the old man as he managed to ease his mind because of the last events that occurred in the village. Walking throughout the village, the Hokage could see the villagers all working and repairing their damaged homes. He could see from their reserved expression that they were still mourning those who perished. Hiruzen had enough experience to realize that people would overcome pain with time. He needed to attend the village's funeral in 20 minutes. Along the way, he met with a great majority of shinobi from all ranks, bowing to him. They were all looks of admiration, he could tell. Sarutobi was able to hold his own against Orochimaru of the Sannin, as well as the first and second Hokage. It was nothing short of amazing, but the man felt he didn't deserve it. It was because of his failure that Orochimaru was out there, causing havoc. He was the one responsible for the invasion. The old man let out a single tear in pain for those who perished at the hands of a man he once considered a son. Ever since Orochimaru graduated and became a genin under his charge, Sarutobi took great interest in the boy. He had lost his parents that year, so Sarutobi ended up becoming the boy's father figure, guiding him as much as possible throughout the years. As time passed by, the team consisting of Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Jiraiya became high-level shinobi and were sent to the front lines of the war. They were able to overcome a lot of obstacles together. After the wars, the hidden village in the leaves was graced with an era of peace and prosperity. The Snake Sannin, though, started an underground laboratory. When Sarutobi found out, he had the opportunity to stop the Sannin. At the time, he had 2 of his most trusted Anbu with him. Orochimaru used a high-level genjutsu to sneak behind the Anbu and deliver the killing blow to them before they could register what happened. Sarutobi, though, did and could stop him. Hiruzen did nothing, however. To this day, the Sandaime Hokage regrets his actions. Right now, as he approached the place where the funeral was to take place, he whispered a final prayer to the shinobi who perished defending their village. To Sarutobi, they were the heroes that deserved the recognition, not him. Some of the dead were taken by surprise, but this fact alone hadn't diminished their sacrifice to the village's well-being. What built this village weren't bricks, cement or even wood. The will of fire was maintained by the people that reside in the village. Konoha was now mourning those who perished. However, once the mourning ceased, Konoha would flourish once more, as its flame could never be extinguished. Even if one person remains, the flames will never die. As the man stepped up and began to address the ninja population transmitting those exact words, Saratobi's expression was one of full commitment and respect. This was not the time to show weakness, as his people needed him right now. The population couldn't help but be moved by their leader's words. After the funeral. Once the funeral was dealt with, Saratobi was now meeting with a few important people, namely his teammates, the Anbu commander, and the Jonin commander Narashikaku. The damage reports were already thoroughly analyzed and taken care of by the Hokage's teammates Himura and Kaheru. By tomorrow, a couple of contractors would come to Konoha and assess the damage before giving Konoha an estimated cost. After that was taken care of, it was now time to fix the routing missions in order to fix some holes in Konoha's defensive system. This system would be taken care of by the Anbu commander, using his Anbu team in order to scout the entire forest around the village. It was considered the Anbu's main priority, besides the protection of the Hokage, to scout the area around the village. Saratobi knew the man, being the one who chose him 30 years ago. Orochimaru must have the backlogs of every patrol mission, so it wasn't that hard to sneak inside the village without anyone noticing. Narashikaku said, earning nods from everyone inside the room except from the Anbu commander. This fact alone doesn't diminish the fact that an entire army swooped in Konoha territory and caused major havoc, Shikaku-san. Forgive me Hokage-sama, for my unit has failed you. Hiruzen nodded solemnly at the man he considered a treasured friend. Once Mabarashi Kisuke sets his mind on something, he won't stop until he accomplishes exactly what he set out to perform, and with utmost efficiency. Saratobi knew of the man's resolve and how he dealt with any level of threat. He knew Kisuke would do his job. I can't expect any less of you, can I, old friend? Kisuke nodded once more before vanishing. He needed to devise a new security system for Konoha after all. After that, Saratobi addressed the others once more. After dealing with these two items, I believe it's now time for us to go over the Chunin replacement. From the report, we've lost close to 15 Chunin overall. Naturally, our only resources are the Chunin exams, as well as their display in the field. Everyone nodded at this. Chunin were a vital piece for Konoha because they took care of most of Konoha's revenue. Missions going from C to low-level A ranked were performed by Chunin, thus reserving the high A and S rank to the Jounin level shinobi. Because of this, everyone in the room expected Saratobi to nominate more Genins for promotion than normal in order to replace as many as possible. From the Chunin exams alone, both Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke displayed an excellent level of skill and were able to plan ahead in their fights. I believe there is no one here that can say otherwise? Narashikaku agreed with a smile on his face as he saw the fight between Naruto and the Hyuga prodigy, Neji. He also witnessed how Naruto dealt with the threats in the invasion. Kaheru and Himura, though, saw a problem with one of the names. Hiruzen, I agree with you on Sasuke getting promoted, but I don't believe Uzumaki has the right skills yet. Himura added, followed by Kaheru. Before the Hokage could ask their real opinion, instead of simply assuming the Kyuubi as a detriment, Shikaku turned to explain. Hot troublesome, I believe that Uzumaki Naruto has both the skills and leadership needed of a Chunin, not only for his fight in the Chunin exams, but how he led the team of Genins throughout the invasion. It's been a while since I've seen a shinobi in Konoha using wind chakra manipulation, and the only one who's not an Anbu who displayed similar ability is Hokage-sama's son Saratobi Asuma. He is also very proficient in the art of Kenjutsu, as appointed by one of the Anbu captain Yuzuki Yugavo that was with me throughout the invasion. As for Sasuke, I also concur with his promotion. I believe the boy had displayed similar leadership skills as Uzumaki-san. The Hokage nodded at Shikaku with a smile on his face. He knew how much Shukaku was against long talks that didn't lead anywhere, and he also knew that once he spoke, rarely could someone find anything worthy to counter-argument the Jonin commander and lead strategist of the hidden village in the leaves. Saratobi also appreciated the silent vote of confidence in young Naruto. As expected, both Himura and Kaheru remained silent, opting instead to make sounds of indignation upon seeing the demon child being promoted to Chunin. Since it's settled with those two, I'd like to appoint 2 other names for the position of Chunin, Aburame Shino and Orochimaru. To this, Shukaku couldn't help but show his fatherly pride with a smile. Both had displayed brilliant strategy throughout the invasion, aiding both Uzumaki Naruto and Sasuke Uchiha in dealing with their fair share of enemies. Without their assistance, saving both the academy and the hospital would be quite difficult. Hokage knew that his only obstacle would be Naruto's promotion. Shino and Shikamaru's promotion was seconded by the elders and of course Shukaku. The old Nara knew how his son would receive the news, though. He wanted nothing more than to personally be there when his son received his Chunin vest. No doubt he'll ask if he could decline the promotion. I can't say that I would blame him, as I remembered doing the same thing when I became a Chunin and a Jounin and the Jonin commander. Troublesome. Now on to the last item of the day. I believe this to be the most important. This got everyone's attention as the Hokage had cleared his throat. After fighting with Orochimaru, I've come to the conclusion that I'm not as strong as I once was, and Konoha, now more than ever, is in need of a young and strong leader. I've considered quite a few names for the position of Godame, but only one stood out. The others in the room were waiting for who Sarutobi would choose for the position. Shukaku couldn't help but shiver at the possibility of his name leaving Hiruzen's mouth. That would be such a drag. I'm announcing Haddock Kakashi as Godame Hokage. Immediate silence reigned in the office, and everyone, including the hidden Anbu, looked at the man they called leader. Elsewhere, a certain Jounin was reading an orange book when he suddenly shivered as he could feel a bad omen approaching. You cannot be serious, Hiruzen. Kakashi is no doubt skilled, perhaps even considered the best Jounin we have in Konoha. But he is too young for the position. This time it was Koharu who went against a Hokage. Shukaku did believe Kakashi was ready, but the man had enough reputation for him to interrupt on his behalf. Homura narrowed his eyes at Hiruzen, silently wishing that Danzo was here right now. This matter affected him directly, and since Hiruzen hadn't indicated that he would be stepping down, the old war hawk opted not to attend. Koharu continued speaking. How about Jiraiya or Tsunade? Their reputation exceeds Kakashi's, and they have the necessary experience. Hiruzen looked at his teammates and smirked. While I admit that both Jiraiya and Tsunade indeed have more experience, neither is fit for the job of Hokage. Setting their vices aside, Jiraiya is currently running a spy network for our village, hence he can't be tied to a desk right now. Tsunade, I'm afraid, is too far gone for us to even consider her for the position. After losing her lover and her brother because of the war, she has lost all faith in Konoha. Kakashi's only downside is experience, which will be taken care of. Like I did with Minato-kun upon stepping down for the first time, I will accompany Kakashi throughout the job, acting as his advisor until he is ready for the position. Aside from this, his skills rival Jiraiya and Tsunade. I dare say he could even surpass them in time. Shukaku was already convinced, so he didn't say anything. Homura and Koharu started murmuring sounds of indignation. I have other plans for Tsunade, however. Sarutobi didn't wait for their approval. After all, it was his prerogative to choose his successor. He just had to make his decision with the Fire Daimyo, and the man had already met Kakashi on a great number of occasions. As soon as Jiraiya shows up, I'll ask him to find Tsunade for me. I want her to lead the village's hospital, as well as all related health provisions. Upon seeing it was futile to convince Hiruzen to change his mind concerning his successor, fixing the hospital really wasn't considered a priority for Homura and Koharu. The Hokage knew that much. Hokage-sama, how do you intend to convince her to come back? As you said, she has lost all faith in the village. Shukaku asked, earning a nod from the leader. Years ago, Tsunade wanted me to create a field medic nin training program. At the time, we were in the middle of war and thus couldn't afford to take our shinobi off the field and train them to become medic nin. Now we have both time and resources for her to create said program. This generation has a lot of shinobi with excellent chakra control that could apply to the program. If she's successful, then perhaps we can incorporate field medic nin into missions, thus avoiding more deaths among our shinobi. Shukaku nodded. Convincing that woman to come back was considered quite a troublesome assignment, but the man didn't worry. It wasn't his assignment after all. Well then, since we've pretty much concluded here, everyone is dismissed. They nodded and left the room, leaving Hiruzen alone in his office, aside from the hidden Anbu. The Hokage knew he wasn't alone, though. I hope you bear no ill will over my decision to give the mantle to Kakashi, Jiraiya. The pervert suddenly appeared on the room's opposite wall with a smirk on his face. I would have, if you considered me for the job. I would go for Tsunade, but I can see your point. Kakashi is a fine choice for Hokage, though his habit of tardiness will have to diminish. Do you think she will want to return to Konoha after hearing about your idea? She has denied all of our attempts in convincing her since she left with her niece Shizune. Hiruzen sighed in dismay, but he knew the pervert was right. The only downside of his plan was to convince Tsunade to return. I admit that it will be hard, but I have to try anyway. This time, though, don't waste your time trying to convince her. The last time you tried, she almost broke your spinal cord. To this day, Hiruzen didn't know what Jiraiya said to Tsunade that infuriated the woman so much. However, seeing the sudden perversion exuding from his student's face, he should have known better. You did it again, didn't you? Hiruzen couldn't help but smile upon seeing Jiraiya admit it without one shed of guilt in his face. Hiruzen was well aware of what passed in his student's mind, as he had read a few of Jiraiya's works. Just try to control yourself this time, as I don't want her to cripple you. The spy network is too valuable for Konoha at the moment. Jiraiya looked at the Hokage and saw he was smiling at him. Thanks for the concern, sensei. I didn't know you cared. The Hokage let out a warm laughter, earning a smile from the pervert Sannin. I see that you have promoted the Gaki. Do you believe he is ready? I heard that he was quite the troublemaker and tends not to think before attacking. The Hokage smirked at that, knowing that if Jiraiya had asked this before Anko showed up in Naruto's life, he would say that Naruto was not ready. This last month did wonders for him, overall. I didn't imagine that Anko would be able to literally whoop his ass into shape like she said she would. Jiraiya smirked at this. Can I take him with me to find Tsunade? I believe it's high time for him to learn one of his father's techniques. After he receives his Chunin jacket, you can take him. I presume you'll be teaching him the Rasengan? After a nod from the pervert, he continued. I'm still debating what will be done with him now that he is a Chunin. Not only him, but the other recently promoted. Naruto-kun and Sasuke-kun work well together, so they'll certainly be paired together in missions. Their elements complement each other, so I believe they'll be a dangerous force in the future, more so than there are now. In fact, I believe it's best if you took both Sasuke and Naruto with you. Perhaps, Sasuke's Sharingan can better help you find Tsunade. To this, Jiraiya frowned. Just what am I supposed to do with the pompous Uchiha anyway? Hiruzen snorted at Jiraiya's indignation. He knew the man just wanted to spend time with his godson. This mission I'm issuing to you three can surely take quite a long time to finish. In the meantime, you could train both of them together. You can teach Naruto the Rasengan, as well as increase his wind manipulation ability. To Sasuke, you could teach him a couple of fire techniques. Furthermore, you could place them against each other and give them some pointers into jutsu. Both of them are rather greedy to fight and improve, Jiraiya. Sasuke tries to hide it more than Naruto, but upon the prospect of getting stronger, neither can hide it so much. Jiraiya knew something was up, aside from a certain need to train the Uchiha. What is it that you're aiming at, sensei? I know it isn't only to train Sasuke. Hiruzen nodded with a proud smirk. He trained his students well in the arts of deception. Sasuke is still targeted by Orochimaru because of the cursed seal placed on him. Right now, Kakashi is tasked with keeping tabs on him, but with the man becoming Hokage, the job of keeping tabs will be with you until the mission is over. It's my hope to increase the bond between him and Naruto so that I can pass the job to him from now on. In time, I hope that both will find in each other a level beyond that of mere teammates. As I understood from your last report, Naruto is also targeted by that organization Akatsuki, if my memory is not failing me. This way, Naruto helps Sasuke, and Sasuke helps Naruto. Jiraiya finished Hiruzen's speech, earning a nod from the leader. What about their cursed seals? I took a great gamble in allowing them to use it. The full effects so far are still unknown. If Sasuke learns how to control it, then he can learn how to cancel Orochimaru's dark influence on him. It's actually another reason why I want those two together. The cursed seal is one more fact they share. Jiraiya nodded, believing that the old man had considered pretty much everything and planned ahead. Also, if the cursed seal becomes a liability, Jiraiya will be there to place a new seal on Sasuke to control the cursed seal's influence. Well, seeing that is settled, I'll take my leave then. Lots of research in my agenda, sensei. Jiraiya said with a perverted face before vanishing from the office. This time alone, the Hokage couldn't help but smile. It won't take long until I receive the first complaints. Seeing that he had mission reports to read and other related assignments, the Hokage had postponed the Chunin and Hokage promotions for tomorrow. He couldn't help but smile in anticipation upon seeing the look on Kakashi's face when he heard the good news. In a relaxed tune, Hiruzen went through the mission reports for a good 2 hours before leaving his office for the day. He certainly needed as much energy as possible for tomorrow. As the Hokage calmly walked throughout the village, he quietly absorbed the nice view of the night sky while relaxing at the gentle breeze. It was quite inebriating, this feeling he had every time Konoha passed through an obstacle mostly unscathed. Even if some perished, he was content that the great majority were saved to live once more. After 10 minutes of walking, the old man lifted his head and looked at the Hokage monument, more directly at the first and second Hokage's heads. I hope that you two are proud of how strong our will of fire has become, Hashirama-sensei, Tobirama-sensei. As if on cue with Hiruzen's thoughts, 2 stars in the sky suddenly sparkled once. Hiruzen smirked and continued his path towards his house. He suddenly narrowed his eyes upon feeling a presence behind him. He certainly did not miss this man at the meeting today, as it went much smoother than it would have had Danzo been there. Turning to see the old war hawk, he suddenly had the need to smirk in victory. Danzo was a shinobi in his mannerisms as well. He managed to mask even his indignation, but Hiruzen has known the man for a long time and knew where to look. Hiruzen Danzo greeted his old-time rival. Danzo, it's nice to see you again. It's been a long time, hasn't it? The third Hokage tried in vain to find one mention of Danzo's participation in the invasion, but couldn't find anything. It was slightly infuriating, but nonetheless expected. Danzo operated from the shadows, rarely showing to others, especially experienced shinobi, what he did. Hiruzen had the sneaking suspicion that the man in front of him didn't even move a finger to aid the village against the joint forces of Tsunagakure and Atagakure. It made Hiruzen wonder the reason, since everything the old war hawk did, he did for the village's benefit. Sometimes, he doubted that, though. There were certain situations that needed my utmost attention. I've been hearing interesting rumors, though. The Hokage had a sneaking suspicion that he knew exactly what those rumors were. Rumors, you say? Do enlighten me. The old warhawk's only visible eyebrow frowned for a brief second, showing Hiruzen the sign of Danzo's indignation. It's been said that you are stepping down and nominating Haddock Kakashi as Godin. I doubt if there is any validity to this rumor. No doubt, either Hamura or Kaharu or both for that matter, spoke to him after leaving his office. Aside from Shukaku's complete discretion concerning these matters, talking with Danzo was considered by the elder Nara very troublesome. That being said, the odds of him being the one who gave Danzo this information was even smaller than 0, if that was possible. After Kakashi is appointed to Hokage, Hiruzen's first advice will be to choose people he could trust as advisors. Hiruzen smiled at the man in front of him. There were very rare occasions in his life when Hiruzen was able to get a rise out of his old rival. I can't simply speak about the validity or not of said rumor out in the middle of the street, Danzo, you know that. There is no need for concern, however. Danzo said nothing, motioning for Hiruzen to keep talking. The old leader, instead, just turned his back to the old war hawk, and before walking once more, he finished the conversation. After all, it's the current Hokage's prerogative to choose the successor. Have a nice evening. The Hokage didn't bother looking back, as he knew his old rival would vanish instantly after the conversation. It was a nice day before his encounter. The day only improved seeing, as he enjoyed upsetting the old war hawk. It didn't take long before Hiruzen entered the Sarutobi compound. Next day. As soon as Hiruzen stepped foot inside his office, he gave orders to assemble 5 names for him, beginning with the Genin Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke, Aburame Shino, and Orochimaru. He asked to reach Kakashi at the same time as the Genin. The reason being that the Jounin will be at least 3 hours late, thus allowing the Hokage to handle some reports in between the meetings. Suddenly he stopped, however, when one of the Anbu handed him 4 Chunin vests, as well as the necessary documents concerning the Genin's promotion to Chunin. Nostalgia bombarded the Sandaime Hokage, as he only now realized that he had done the same thing for the previous generation. Namikaze Minato, Uchiha Fugaku, Aburame Shibi, and Nara Shukaku all received their Chunin jackets from Hiruzen. Back then, Konoha was facing some dark times, thus forcing early promotions on a great majority of Genin. These 4 were among them and faced a great load of intense battles before becoming legends on their own. The first, and most famous, became the Yondaime Hokage, and the other three became clan heads. Unfortunately, fate ended the lives of two of them, thus forcing the present generation to grow up alone. Sandaime was once more alerted by a knock on the door before the present generation of genin marched inside. Sarutobi, at first, saw a glimpse of their respective fathers at their age entering this exact room. I called the four of you here for a very important long-term assignment, one that will involve not only skill, but bravery as well. The genin looked at each other for a while, wondering what this was all about, to which the Hokage smiled and continued. You four have displayed both physical and leadership skills that are consistent with this job. As such, it fills me with great pride in informing all four of you that from now on, you are Chunin of Konohagakure. Congratulations. As he expected, the shocked looks were instantaneous, except for Shino, as Aburam rarely displayed any sort of outrageous emotion. The initial shock lasted for a couple seconds, though. Naruto and Sasuke smirked before grabbing their vests. Sasuke wasn't interested in the promotion, but the tougher missions he would participate in now. He also realized that he made one step further into being strong enough to deal with his brother. Naruto was pleased because he was one step closer to becoming Hokage. He was giddy in excitement at the prospect of getting stronger by facing stronger foes. Shino, as an Aburam, considered his promotion as pure logic, considering how he performed in the Chunin exams, as well as the invasion. Shikamaru just muttered the word troublesome, as both the Hokage and his father expected. Upon lining up in front of the Hokage once more, only Shino wasn't using his vest. Wait, what was the meaning of that speech in the beginning? I thought you were talking about a mission, Gigi. Naruto questioned, earning a snicker from the Hokage. I was just merely explaining to you all what will be expected of you four now that you have been promoted. The Chunin position requires responsibility above all else. Oftentimes, you four will be leading missions either with fellow Chunin or genin. Logically, the missions you'll receive will increase in difficulty, but considering the obstacles you faced in the invasion, I'm pretty sure you guys will manage. Congratulations to all of you. Now, except for Sasuke and Naruto, the rest are dismissed. Shino and Shikamaru simply turned and left the room, leaving Sasuke and Naruto alone with the Hokage. Now, you two will receive your first mission as Chunin right now. You two will be going with Jiraiya of the Sannin to help him find Senju Tsunade. Jiraiya will be expecting you two in 2 hours at the North Gate. Once again, congratulations to you two, and wear that vest with pride as you incorporate this village's will of fire. Now, you are dismissed. Hiruzen could see that Naruto was controlling himself and could only ascertain that Anko managed to drill in some manners. Now that he got that cleared, it was time to wait until Kakashi arrived. 3 hours later. The Hokage had just finished today's reports when smoke suddenly gathered in front of him. Kakashi appeared reading his orange book. Sorry Hokage-sama, but a black cat crossed my path, so I had to do a complete lap around the village before coming here. Now it was time for the first trap. Actually, you were right on time, Kakashi. The silver-haired Jounin sweat dropped, seeing that Hokage did everything on purpose. It was quite amusing. First of all, I'd like to inform you that Sasuke and Naruto had already received their vests before leaving with Jiraiya in order to search for Tsunade. Upon hearing this, Kakashi showed a smile of pride for his students. Even if Naruto's promotion was solely because of Anko, he was proud of the blonde. In only 1 month, he managed to cover a lot of obstacles and became a better shinobi. That's good, but you haven't called me here just for this, have you, Sandaime-sama? The predatory smile that appeared in front of him made Kakashi shiver. Right, you are Kakashi-kun. I called you here to announce that I will be stepping down from the position of Hokage and announcing you as my successor. Oh, if only Hiruzen had a camera to record the expression on Kakashi's face. The Jounin's only visible eye widened to impossible proportions, and he was babbling like an idiot, repeating the word Hokage like a broken tape recorder. Strangely, he behaved exactly like his sensei, the Yondaime Hokage, upon receiving the news. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. If you want the next part of this story, let me know in the comment box. See you next time, till then sayonara.